abusive and responsible for her going dark online.
5 years ago, I became famous, and my abusive absentee father, who had not been in my life for years up till that point, decided to come back into my life to take control over my career and my money. That's why I disappeared. He started a court case to silence me so I could not speak on what was happening and so he could take control over my money.
And then, because of the way that YouTube treats these kinds of stories involving minors, we can't really get into any of the details, but Lil Tay made several claims of both physical abuse and misconduct by her father and his girlfriends, and many of those actually centering specifically around her father and his current wife. Also claiming that they fed her moldy and rotten food, that they gave her damaged and old clothes to wear to school while the new wife was getting designer purses, and saying now he owes her $250,000 in child support, and also accusing her father of being racist.
Do you know one of the reasons that he said to the court that he should have custody of me after I became famous? He said it was because my mom was letting me associate with Black and Hispanic people in the entertainment industry.
She then accused the media of sharing false stories about her family and her mother, with Lil Tay saying that her mother was always supportive and was actually also a victim of her father's abuse. Also slamming the media for constantly citing her manager as a source because she said she never had one.
As long as you claim to be my manager, they would just take your word for it. As long as anyone claimed that my mom got fired from her job just for controversy purposes, they would just report on it, even though it's not f***ing true.
And she also went on to accuse her father of being behind that big death hoax, saying he was working with a man pretending to be her manager and trying to turn the news into a crypto scheme.
Their plan was to fake my death and then promote the crypto coin.
And ultimately, she ended the stream by saying that after her father tried to exploit her, steal her money, she is now free from him and able to speak out. And now, actually, with all this, she's posted a new music video that's trending on YouTube and getting a lot of attention. So if you look at the likes to dislikes on that, there's been a mixed reaction, which the same could be said regarding the things that she said during her live stream. Which is why, with all that, I gotta pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts with this news? And then, the story that's just come out of the school on Long Island just keeps getting more and more horrifying. Right, so it begins several years ago when an unidentified girl that we'll call Rose starts getting bullied in the 6th grade by one girl in particular who we'll call Karen, with Karen constantly inflicting misery on Rose during lunch and recess according to court filings, and leading to Rose's parents to contact the assistant principal numerous times. But the assistant just tells them to fill out a formal complaint, and when they do, the school's investigation comes back as unfounded. Then we fast forward to COVID. You have schools shutting down, Rose presumably gets some minor relief, but in fall of 2021, the lockdowns lift and Rose enters 9th grade at Smithtown West High School. She qualifies for the varsity cheer team alongside Karen, and thankfully, things seem to have settled down because the season goes by without incident. But as Karen befriends another girl and joins her clique, they reportedly begin teasing Rose again for being, quote, weird, which leads to the following summer when Rose attends a house party where, what do you know, Karen's there. And so as soon as she gets there, Karen and several other cheerleaders allegedly surround her, and one sneers, "I kissed a boy that you like," which is immediately followed by another sneaking up from behind, allegedly grabbing her hair and yanking her down to the ground. Next, Karen and 2 other girls allegedly punch and kick Rose, also pulling out her hair. And then a 4th filming the whole fucking thing and posting it on social media, leading Rose to get bullied even more on Snapchat. So understandably feeling so alone and lost with this, Rose quits the cheer team, and despite her parents alerting the coach, the athletic director, and other administrators to what happened, even providing the video as proof, nothing is done. In fact, the cheer team then goes on to win a championship, and an interview with Karen gets featured on the local news. And so naturally, with nothing being done to stop her abuser except giving her praise on TV, Rose is terrified to return to school the following year. So her parents just say, fuck it, and they put their house up for sale. And in the meantime, they get permission for her to take classes remotely while they find a buyer. But eventually, the school reneges, reportedly deeming the education she's receiving to be unacceptable. So they have Rose come back in person, and they say, hey, you're getting a student escort walking her to and from classes, on-site security staff monitoring her well-being. But instead, according to her parents, she gets followed, screamed at in the hallways, staircases, and bathrooms, with the other girls throwing food at her, laughing at her, pointing at her, and telling her friends not to be friends with her. And so at this point, knowing the school's not going to help and having tried other things, the parents are like, what do we do? And so Rose's parents actually get her an emotional support horse, and she loves horses and they have enough land for it. But just a few months later, right, enough time to bond with the animal, but not enough time to ride out the rest of the school year, the horse dies, with the parents simply saying it was, quote, tragically killed in front of her by the veterinarian. And so now, with no animal that was giving her like the slightest bit of joy, the bullying gets even worse because the little shits at school begin calling her horse girl. And then after yet another assault in the bathroom, Rose identifies Karen as the ringleader to administrators, but reportedly they say they believed the girl when she said she wasn't involved. So with the help of Rose's doctor, her parents get the school to allow her to finish the year with home tutoring. But one last time, Rose has to return to the building in May, and allegedly the other girls get in one more assault, which once again they film. And once again, nothing is done. And so now Rose's parents have filed a $6 million lawsuit against the district, with their lawyers saying there have been repeated cases over and over and over again where schools say they will take affirmative action action. And then they do absolutely nothing. And as it turns out, Smithtown has a history of this kind of thing. Right? Just last year, Great Hollow Middle School made headlines for a bullying scandal, with an LGBTQ teen's parents going to the media and blasting the district's alleged failure to stem 4 years of abuse. Then, going back to 2014, a bus driver was actually fired for allegedly bullying kids aged 5 to 10 years old, with them saying he pushed them, shoved them, squished them in their seats, picked them up by their backpacks, and dropped them, and even made them kiss. And so now, maybe with some real legal action being taken, we'll see some genuine change. But also, it is important to realize that it's not just this one school. Right? Bullying is a nationwide, hell, a worldwide epidemic. Because the unfortunate truth is this shit happens everywhere, right? Some places don't care, some places don't believe it, other places are so fucking progressive, they're like, let's talk it out, even though this is the 15th fucking time that it happened. And unfortunately, it's one of those things as a parent you don't know until your kid's already been at the school for a while. Which, hey, I'm not saying hide the real world from your children. Like, for example, I'm so thankful that I'm in a privileged enough position that I was able to move my kids to a school where they actually expel kids who are fucking dangerous and hurt people. Right? Mistakes and bad decisions happen, but when they happen over and over, it's a trend. And as teachers and the school administration, if you don't fucking do something about it, you are complicit. And the blame is also to be shared with the parents of people like Karen, but the schools are the ones with the ultimate power to do something there, and by not using it, that is also a choice. With that said, whether you or someone you know, their kids, whoever, have any sort of experience with this thing, I'd love if you'd share your story. And then France has a massive problem right now as they prep for the Olympics coming next year, and that is bed bugs. And this getting a massive spotlight after videos of these little bastards have gone viral on platforms like TikTok. And here's the thing, it's not just in hotels and Airbnbs, where some are afraid to even take a seat on the metro, while other videos show alleged bed bug bites after going to the movie theater, with it seeming pretty much like if there's a place for them to hide in Paris, they're there. But then, you see this and you go, okay, well, how big of a problem is it? And so if you dive deeper into the situation, you find that between 2017 and 2022, about 1 in 10 French households were infested with bed bugs. And things like income didn't actually make a difference on whether a household was likely to get infected, just on how long it would last. Also, before you get too judgmental about that 1 in 10 number for comparison's sake, the US reports that about 1 in 5 households have this problem. Though, I do want to note, the videos going around social media right now seem to indicate that that 1 in 10 number might be a low estimate. But even if France as a whole is seemingly doing relatively well fighting bed bugs, Paris officials are taking the situation super seriously. And that could be because Paris might actually have a higher percentage of infestation, or it could just be the perception. Because even the perception that bed bugs are a problem could hurt tourism for the games. Which, I mean, if that happened, that's almost a guaranteed financial disaster for France. Though, and I think this is a notable thing, that wouldn't be uncommon. But if you look into it, pretty much all the games except the LA games have been disasters financially. But either way, Paris's deputy mayor wrote a letter to the prime minister stating the state urgently needs to put an action plan in place against this scourge as France is preparing to welcome the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2024. With city officials vowing to do what they can to fight the problem, and the French transportation minister tweeting that he was going to meet with metro operators to discuss the issue. That being said, one of the ways that some residents are dealing with the potential of bed bugs is to change their clothes outside on their balconies to try and lower the risk of bringing them inside. And for those planning on going to the Olympics, make sure to check the corners of mattresses and other crevices or bed bugs. And then when you come home, throw all your clothes directly into the laundry and wash them, and vacuum your suitcase and toss what you just vacuumed. And also understand that even with all that, it's not guaranteed to keep them out, but it'll probably serve you a lot better than just, throwing your suitcase on the bed. Also, even just talking about bed bugs, now I'm just feeling things on my skin. So if this story just did that to you, I'm so sorry. And then this is the day tens of millions of Americans have been dreading. It is the beginning of October, and that means that student loan payments have officially resumed after 3 years. And this is tens of millions of Americans owe more than $1 trillion in student loan debt, and many of them are getting their very first bill this month after payments were initially paused back in March of 2020. And already we've seen some problems as millions move to make their first payments in years, including incorrect billing, glitchy websites, and long hold times. Now, there is a silver lining here, though that might not be the right way to put it. Maybe it's better to say the hammer coming down on the heads of tens of millions of Americans, it's a little padded. And that's because the 12-month on-ramp transition period allows borrowers to miss a payment without it being reported to a credit bureau, marked as default, or sent to collections. So that'll stretch from now until September 30th, 2024. However, very key thing, interest does continue to accrue through this on-ramp period as it has since September 1st of this year. And important with all this, following the Supreme Court's ruling against his initial student loan forgiveness plan, Biden introduced a new income-driven repayment plan called SAVE, which calculates payments based on the family's income and size. Where some individuals and families below a certain threshold won't have to make any payments at all, which, coupled with the promise of balanced forgiveness after a certain number of years, can be a great relief to those struggling to make ends meet. And actually with that, the Department of Education says that it's reached out to nearly 30 million borrowers, inviting them to apply for this plan. But for now, we're gonna have to wait to see how this first month of repayments plays out and how the Biden SAVE plan works in actual action. And then, for any of you focused on getting your business off the ground, creating a place to share your homemade goods, or even a personal blog, I got a great solution for you. And it comes from, and I want to thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. I've been partnering with Squarespace for years now, and I have to say, it is just so easy. There's nothing to install, patch, or update ever. And creating a beautiful website with Squarespace's Fluid Engine is so easy. You just drag things where you like, no coding necessary. And if you need a starting point, point, Squarespace has a bunch of great professional templates. You can even sell custom merch easily, with Squarespace handling all the production and shipping. Plus, with Squarespace, you get access to all their marketing tools and analytics and their award-winning customer care team via email or live chat 24/7. So go check it out, see why so many others love it, see why you're going to love it, and start your free trial today over at squarespace.com/Phil. When you realize you've made the right decision, just make sure you enter an offer code Phil to get 10% off your first purchase. And then the actors and the studios are finally hitting the negotiating table today. But what does that mean? Well, they've been on strike for around 80 days now, and if the studios actually want TV and film to be made again, they need to get them